Hey, welcome everybody. Comic writer Chip Ambrogio here. And this is our initial podcast for highlights from my mediocre career, where I talk to people that I've met along the comedy world, from the local shows to TV and film. And tonight, my guest is a good friend of mine, a musician, a comic, an actor. He was voted the Electric City's top comedian 3 years in a row. And I'm very happy to have him on the podcast. Paul Dudrich, or as he's known in the comedy world, Father Paul. Father Paul, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Chip. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We're going to try to keep this tight and moving. So I want to go back to when we first met, which I believe, I don't remember the town, but it was at a small show someplace in Pennsylvania. And I think I saw you go up for one of your first times in comedy.
Yes, that was at the Corner Bistro in Carbondale, Pennsylvania. And it was probably a 60-seat, maybe a 60-seat venue. But that was actually probably one of the first times I ever got on stage as a stand-up on a real show. And I remember I went up there and I did my thing. And if you recall, backstage, there was they had those benches and they had the little candy bars and stuff. And you and I struck up a conversation, and I did. I asked you. I said, "Well, how did I do?" He said, and you were very complimentary to me. And then after I heard you, I'm going, I think what I'm doing here is not what they're doing, because after I saw you go up and kill, I'm going, wow. But that was the very first show that we did, and my good friend Rob, who owned the place. That part of the deal was I was gonna open up, so I was real happy. It was just a guest spot. As a matter of fact, that was a guest spot. Now that I think about it, but that was our very first time, and that's when you and I struck up a conversation, and we just, for some reason, we hit it off, and here we are. How many years later? God, I don't even know how long ago that was.
And look at how far we've come doing a free podcast.
I'm sitting in my kitchen.
How we built our career. I remember actually after the show, taking a picture in the bar area. And I think since that time, we've probably both lost a total about 100 pounds, right?
You're right.
I think and comedy is very therapeutic, and also it doesn't pay much, so you can't eat, which is nice.
Weight Watchers help me. I don't know about that, but I still think I have. You know what? I'm gonna look for those pictures, because I still think I have them on my phone somewhere or on my Facebook thing somewhere. But yeah, that was the first time we met, and I remember we exchanged phone numbers, and I mean that was the beginning.
I usually show those pictures. I have them on my phone to my therapist, because I want to track where everything went wrong.
Yeah, I hear you on that one, brother.
So how did you come up with the Father Paul character?
It's interesting because, as you know, like I've been a musician most of my life, and I've done theater, and I've always in the back of my mind wanted to do stand-up comedy, but it was always in the back of my mind, and it never came to the front. And then one morning I was laying in bed, and I looked over at my wife and I said, "Father Paul," and she goes, "What?" I says, "That's going to be my comedy stand-up." I said, "An Irish priest that likes to drink." I said, "I'm pretty much not reinventing the wheel, but that was the genesis of it all." And from there, like, I just took it. I remember they had an open mic down here in Scranton, and I remember going just to watch. And 2 weeks later, I went up on stage, and I just started. And the character definitely grew from the first day, because the beginning he was more of a drinker and a woohoo, and that kind of toned down to more into the I guess the comedy end of it. I don't know, but so that was how it started, and it just grew, and that was from that one little bit was Father Paul, Irish priest, likes to drink. So that's how
I remember. There's a lot of comics that we've worked with that would say, like, "Oh, I don't like a comic that stands behind a character." Yeah. I don't want to get into names, but It's like, then you have people like, you got Larry the Cable Guy.
Sure.
You have you know, people that weren't what they really were, like back in the day, like an Emo Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
You have people like Donald Trump, who's now president, you know, things like that. You know, people that played a character that, you know, that they stand behind. But what was kind of cool was, you know, you took the part of your life where you were a musician and you brought it onto stage. You would open up for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and then go into the act. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, because when I decided to come up, well, actually, from like encouragement from you, to start producing my own shows, I was like, well, what can I do to kind of be a little different from everybody else? And what do they have before every comedy show is music. So a lot of the people knew me, especially in this area, as a musician. So I would come up if the show started at 8 o'clock, about 7 o'clock, I'd go up and I would just take my acoustic guitar and I'd play songs and till about 10 minutes before the show. Then I would stop, I'd put music through, and then I would come back as Father Paul, and then I would MC the show. And a lot of people really, they really liked that aspect of it. You know, so that's how I started doing with that. And again, you know, the music end of it was kind of encouragement from guys like yourself would say, you know what, you should incorporate that into your act, which is what I did do eventually with the accordion and playing musical songs and things like that. But yeah, that's basically, but you know, you're right too, because people have said to me, like to my face, well, you're not a real stand-up because you're doing a character. I'm like, whatever. Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got an opinion about comedy.
Sure. Sure.
You know, so you were a musician for many years. So
yep.
What's the crossover between the world of music and comedy?
Well, you know, I figured, you know, what I wanted to do was, you know, the incorporation of it is that, you know, like doing song parodies and things that were kind of funny. So I kind of instituted it into the act, and it kind of grew. Like I would just do the accordion songs, and then like I would do some stand-up portion of it, and then I would close with quick song parodies of which I would call songs from the Vatican, and they were just maybe 30-second clips of songs that people are recognizable, and you know, and I would just change up the words, and hopefully they were funny. In fact, people used to say, "Boy, I really that was good," or "That was funny," which, you know, as yourself as a comedian, that when you hear stuff like that, really kind of, yeah, okay, I did it, you know. So, but yeah, so I figured.
Can you give us a little bit? Can you give us a little bit of songs from the Vatican? Can you give us a little bit of that now?
I could. Let me see. Let's see.
Yeah. This is it.
Now, is this going to be let me see. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Let me think. Let's see.
Or you know what? Another one of my favorites was the Flow song. Give me the Flow.
Okay, well, that was on the accordion. Well, I have this wee confession, even though I am a priest. I think of this fine lady, with her I'd like to be. Well, I bet you're probably wondering who this fine young lass could be, but I hesitate to tell you for fear you'll spill the beans. Well, she is not from my parish and she is not on my street. You won't see her on those porno sites, but you'll see her on TV. When those commercials start a flickering, my heart begins to beat. My blood flows through that certain place and I begin to sing. You know who she is? It's Flo. She's the progressive girl I know. And when she's sitting next to me, I'm wondering just how progressive she will be. And it goes on and on and on. Thank you.
If it doesn't work out in the podcast, it's really some product placement. Maybe we can get some sponsorship, whatever. It'll work out, Paul. It'll work out. Anyway, so we have done a lot of shows together with a lot of people. So off the top of your head, give me the best and worst shows that we ever did together.
Well, actually, you know, I would have to say the best show that we ever did, because I'm going to tell you, we've done a lot, so there's a lot there to choose from. I really think every one of them was good. And I want to go back to the first show that I ever did with you, because after our conversation that we had, and many conversations, we talked for quite a while. I don't know if you probably don't remember it as well as I do.
I
But
blocked it out in therapy, Paul.
But that first show, because you gave me such you gave me hope, and you said, you know what? And I even told my wife that. I said, I could do this. I mean, it's going to take some time, but the very first show that we ever did was that. One of there was a couple, not, and I wouldn't say that they were bad shows, just some bad things happened. Is we did that show up in the Poconos, and when I got off a stage, this lady came at me, and she had the guns a-blazing. And I don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember, because here you are, like, you're sitting here now, and you're in your lay clothes, like we used to say in Catholic school.
Yeah.
Which always confused me. They would always say your lay clothes, and that's the stuff they're not supposed to be doing. But
right.
It was she came up and she said she was disgusted that you were doing comedy as a Catholic priest.
Yeah.
As a Catholic, it really offended her. Everybody was offended by it. And I was standing there, and I was getting so annoyed.
You were.
And I said, I go, look, ma'am, not everyone was offended. You were offended. And she kept going on and on. And I said, look, what did you pay? Here's $20. Take it, go put it in the collection plate on Sunday, and don't come back. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just so, but people will do that. People
Sure.
impose their will on other people at a comedy show because it offends them,
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
but yeah, that was one. Another one that I remember, that fact, we did that one show in Oliphant. Remember, it was 200 and some people, and somebody asked me to do a guest spot, and I put them on, and they wouldn't leave the stage, and I was getting furious. I don't know if you remember that.
Was I on that show?
You were, and I could tell you.
Was I the guest spot?
No. You were the feature. No, John McClellan, and it was like 200 and some people in that room, right. And I let somebody go up and do a guest spot, and I said, "Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes." Well, 5 minutes turned into 10 turned into about 18, and I was looking at you. I'm going, and you know me to begin with, when I'm producing shows, I'm a nervous wreck to begin with. I just wanted to. I was like, God. That thoroughly blew my mind.
I would say one of the best shows and one of the most fun and uplifting shows we ever did was when we did the show with Kevin Meaney, right?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, my God, that was the first time I ever met him. And you know what? God rest his soul, because we were supposed to do a show about 2 weeks before he passed, if you remember. I remember, because he and I were talking a lot, because he watches me come in, and I see him sitting there eating a salad, and I bring in the guitar, and he goes, "You're going to play that?" And I said, "Yeah." Then I bring in the accordion. He says, "Are you going to play that?" I said, "Well, yeah." And you know what he said to me? And he said, "You are now my most favorite comedian." And I'm like, my God, to hear that from Kevin Meaney, whether, after he saw me perform, I don't know what he thought.
No, but, it was a fun night. And for people that don't know who Kevin Meaney is, Kevin Meaney was a big comic in the early 80s and 90s, multiple Tonight Show appearances, was in the movie Big with Tom Hanks. He actually had a series, Uncle Buck, that they made after the movie. And just a great comic. His signature bit was, "We're big pants people." And he would sing this song at the end of his act called "I Don't Care." But so the reason why we're doing this,
I don't care.
I don't care. The reason why we're doing this is because there's such a link between the local shows and the TV and the film that people don't even realize that's a pipeline. So here's a guy that's been on the Tonight Show, has multiple credits, but he's playing a room in Emerson, New Jersey of 100 seats. And he gets up on stage and he gives it his all. And then you realize what a pro really is. The last show I did with that guy was up in upstate New York. and it was 100 degrees. We were outside, and he comes down in his full outfit with his suit on,
Oh,
a bow tie up to the thing, and he goes up. He does his 45 minutes. They're throwing wet towels up, and he's going on, and he's singing like it was like a beautiful day out. So it's like that was one of my best shows because it just showed me what the business was all about. If you're a real pro, it doesn't really matter where you're performing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So.
You know, what producing shows, people have said to me, like especially headliners, well, I don't want this one. I don't want that. I don't want this. I'm like, you know what? And I will never, I'm not a headliner. I never will be a headliner. I'm not even a feature. But my idea is this. If you're a good headliner, you can kill no matter what. You could come up after a freight train and you're going to do a good job. And that's my opinion. I could be wrong, but I don't know. But Kevin was a great guy. And I remember I was playing and that show that we were going to do was a small room, the Cavern and Jessup, if you remember. And I got a text from John Sweeney, and he said, I don't know if you heard about Kevin, but he passed. And I almost died right there. I was in the middle of a gig, and it was about a week or two before the show. And then we decided, I remember talking to you, and I said, yeah, I'm going to cancel it. I says, I'm not going to, so, but yeah, what a good guy. He made you feel, he made you feel like $1 million.
It was the same experience. I just got off stage and somebody told me that he passed away, and I was supposed to go open for him in Atlantic City. But that's what the comedy world is. We just lost another comic, Vic Henley, the other night. And it's like funny. These people are part of your life because you've worked with them. But so there's some pratfalls to producing your own shows. You want to share some of those with us?
Oh God, I just had one because since I've been playing more music than comedy, I'm not doing a lot of shows. And the second to the last show I did, which was about maybe 4 months ago, I'm now, and this is a room full of like 200 people, and I go up to do it, and then I hear people saying, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. And I'm like, okay. So I quickly got off stage. I brought up the feature, and I said, kind of just stall. Well, as it turned out, the one whole side of the PA went out. And I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't know what to do. Well, I did know what to do. And it took about maybe 10 minutes, but I finally got it. It was a bad chord somewhere. And, but stuff like that, that killed me because, there's people on one side of the room. They're like, well, I can't hear. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, actually dealing with some comics, it can be a little trying at times, but all in all, I get really uptight, and I think like doing the music portion, like we were talking about before, kind of centers me a little bit before I have to go up and become Father Paul. It kind of gets me in my zone, and it gets me like, so I think that helps with my jitters and my nerves, because I'm a wreck every time I go up and do stand-up comedy. Always.
So that's what you get with this podcast, folks. You get the behind the scenes of the paranoia of comedy, highlighted so well by Paul right here. But you and I both do more pacing before a show than the Boston Marathon. Well, I know towards the end of the comedy thing, with everybody calling for spots and things like that, it became a little bit too much. And you said, hey, I'm a musician. Let me go back into my music a little bit more. So tell me about that transition, because I know that right now you're playing with the Wannabes and also by yourself. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I started playing back in 1975 was the first band I was ever in. So I've been doing music for like 45 years. And one of the coolest things that I did back in the 70s is we got to open up for Harry Chapin, who was a Long Island guy.
I never knew that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we did. It was for World Hunger Day. It was August 6, 1977. Don't ask me why I remember that. But he was just by himself with an acoustic guitar, and we opened up for him. We did 45 minutes, and I always tell this story whenever I do the song Taxi in my solo gig, is because I was a big fan. So I actually went out into the audience. There was a lot of people at that, and I went out in the audience to watch the show, and I wanted to meet him, and I tried to fight. When he got done, I fought my way through the crowd to get backstage, and he was gone. So I never got a chance to meet him, and that's a little bit of regret. But it was pretty cool to say we opened up for Harry Chapin. I actually played with the Box Tops. I might be dating myself. And I actually sang with what's his name? Oh God, never mind. But yeah, so it's been music's been my whole life. Then it got to a point in my life where I had to get away from music. The booze was getting a little bit to me, and that's when I started doing theater. And I did theater for almost 18 years, and I was still doing music at the time. And finally, I was doing the comedy, and somebody asked me to fill in for this. Well, this guy Ron, the leader of the band, said, "Would you mind filling in? We need somebody that could sing." So I said, "Yeah." So anyway, he gave me this book of songs, and we didn't even have a rehearsal. He said, "You look through the book. Whatever you want to sing, we sing." I said, "Okay." So it was a wedding. I will never forget this. So I go up, and I was still doing comedy a lot. And he asked me, would you be interested? I did it for the summer. And then he asked me in September, would you mind doing this? I said, well, I said, I'm really doing the comedy. I said, and another thing is I'm going to ask my wife, because she has been the band widow her whole life. Now, you know what a band widow is. We're gone all the time. So they're home by themselves. And at first she said, I really wouldn't want you to do that. So I said, I don't have a problem with that. I've been there, done that. And then she came out inside the band and she said, well, if you really want to do it, she said, do it. So 4 years later, I'm still doing it. And again, I've been doing some comedy shows because people I guess they're missing the old Father Paul, the crazy son of a gun. So, and I've done maybe, 4 shows in the last year, but nothing big, but yeah. So,
and you guys,
I've been doing the wannabes thing now for 4 years.
Yeah, well, the wannabes are very, very popular, and you guys are working all the time.
We are.
See, it's like, people that don't know the entertainment business only know what they see on TV and stuff like that. But there's regional bands and groups that just are working all the time. You guys are doing 4 or 5 shows a night.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, we are, and it is, and we're very fortunate that we have a very good fan base, and I have been fortunate to be with this band, and we've done some pretty cool things. We've played at the Hard Rock Cafe up in Niagara Falls. We're actually in May. We're supposed to play at Margaritaville in Atlantic City, and but I don't know if that's going to happen. We played up at Lake George. We did a weekend in Boston for on Halloween about 2 years ago. So it's pretty cool. We got to open up for the Sons of 52nd Street, and they're all original members of the Billy Joel band. So I got to meet like Liberty DeVita, which was pretty cool for me because he was one of my favorite drummers. So the band has been good to me, and again, I've been doing some solo gigs, and so it's been a good ride. You know what, Chip? I have no complaints. I really don't. I've been very fortunate. I often said since 1974 when Gold Dust got together, we never went into it to become famous. We never did. It was just like, let's go have some.
And it's worked out.
Yeah. Drinking beer and maybe getting a girlfriend every now and again. But, it was, I have no regrets. And I was going to ask
you about that, Paul. Can you tell me a little bit about the groupies?
Oh, yeah. Well, their panties are this big right now that they throw up on stage. Let me get a camera shot. Yeah, they're like this big, that throw. Now, we have a very nice fan base. And again, I'll be 64 in July. So a lot of our fan base, a lot of stuff we do is 60s, 70s, 80s. We could even do 90s. And but a lot of our fan bases are older. And but you know what? They come out. They come out every weekend. And they're very supportive of us. So, like when we could do Atlantic City, we can sell 3 busloads out of Scranton, so that's a good thing,
Yeah.
But yeah, the fans are great.
So we don't have a lot of time left, Paul. So I was going to ask you, you did some interesting things. Tell me about the Gong Show live. Everybody remembers the Gong Show with Chuck Barris, and you actually did a live version of that off Broadway.
Yes, we did. Well, it was off. No, it was off. It was off Broadway. It was at the Cutting Room in New York City on 34th Street. Well, I get a phone call from this guy, and he said, "Oh, Howard Stern," and he says, "Are you the accordion playing priest?" I said, "Yes, I am." And he says, "Would you be interested in auditioning for the Gong Show live in New York City?" Now, you know some of the guys that I know, like in comedy here, and I actually thought it was a joke. I said, "All right, who is this really?" He says, "No." He says, "Would you be willing to do it?" And after I found out he was serious, I said, "Absolutely." So I said, "What do you want me to do?" He said, "We're going to send you a clip. I want you to learn that on the accordion and sing it." He said, take a film of that and send it back to me. So I did. They said, "Man, we don't kind of like that. Can you learn this?" I said, "I can learn whatever you want me to learn." So I go in there, and finally they say, "Okay, we're going to audition you. Can you be in New York this Sunday at 6:00?" And it was in some rehearsal room that they rented out for an hour. I asked them this, I said, "Just bring your accordion." So I go, and parking was right on the street. So I got in this elevator and I go upstairs, and I'm sitting in this room, and these people come in. They have like 3 cameras set up, and he said, "All right, exchange pleasantries, go." So I did my thing. It was like a minute and a half. They go, "Do it again. Do it one more time." So they said, "Thanks a lot." I thought, okay. So I'm leaving there, and I called my wife on my way to the Lincoln Tunnel. She goes, "How did it go?" I said, "I don't know." She said, so they called me about a week later, and they said, "Would you like to be part of this?" I said, "Where do I sign up for that?" And so we did a bunch of shows at the Cutting Room. It's one of the coolest things I did. I met some really neat people, and it was really fun. And of course, well, they're not doing it now, I guess. But yeah, that's one of the highlights. That's that had to be up there because. And what I liked about that is there was no expectations because everything was scripted. I just had to do what they asked me to do. And, a lot of people liked what I was doing. And, I got gonged every night because that was part of the plan. And they let me finish my bit because they asked me, "Would you mind if we gong you?" I said, "Absolutely not." They go, "Okay, good." Because I guess some people don't like to get gonged, but I'm not sure.
And that was like produced by Leslie Gold, who was called the Radio Chick, right?
The Radio Chick, very nice woman. What a very nice woman. I have a lot of respect for her. She was in control. She was in charge. She knew what she wanted, and I love her to death. The coolest thing is now being a musician is her boyfriend is Carmen Appice, who was the drummer from the Vanilla Fudge.
Yeah, I know that.
And I got to meet him, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. I'm meeting Carmine, and I'm like, yeah, this. So a lot of people were trying to get at him, and I just wanted a picture. And I just said, been a big fan since I was 13, and we got a picture. But yeah, that was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it's like 7 degrees of obscurity. This is like
yeah,
but
yeah.
Anyway, like so this isn't the first podcast that you have done with me. Back in the day, you used to come on as Father Paul when we used to do the Basement Chronicles, which was a show that I did with my 14-year-old son McLean at the time. And look at how far we've come. But it's you used to come on, and we would do on-air confessions for people. People would come on and do their confessions on the air, which we had so many people that would line up to confess their sins on the Basement Chronicles. So I think that could be a side industry for you right now with everything that's going on. You start a Zoom call, everybody's calling you, they're going to get off their chest, a little extra money. Paul, what do you think?
I like the idea. Let me go get my collar on right now. We could start right here. We can give you a confession. If you were going to give a confession to Father Paul right now, what would your sin be?
What would it be? Wow. I guess it would be all the things that I've been thinking about right now when I'm in confinement. The things that I'm like, oh my God. And it's like, you think about people like Anne Frank that spent like all that time, like in like a really small room without any internet, without any of the stuff. And we're complaining about stuff,
Exactly.
it's crazy. Of course, it's a difficult situation. I don't mean to make light of it, but what I'm
Absolutely.
saying is there's so many ways that we can keep ourselves busy, and I guess
Absolutely.
this being one of the things that we can keep ourselves busy. Well, Paul, before you get off, I wanted to ask you: is there anything that you want to touch on that we haven't talked about?
Not really. There was, I mean, we could sit here probably you and I for the next 3 hours and talk. Uh, just that we're doing a lot. If you go to my Paul Dudrich Facebook page, you can kind of give that a like, and the Wannabes Facebook page, give that a like. See what we're doing all over the place. And one thing, Chip, I will say this, and not because you're here right now, but I just want you to know how important you have been in my, if I want to call it a career in comedy, and how important you have always been to me and supportive of me and encouraged me. Because I'll tell you, there was a lot of times that, and as you could probably remember, I was driving back from places, and I'd call you up and say, "Oh man, I can't do this anymore," and you'd talk me off the ledge. Every time you talk me off the ledge, and I just want you to know that I appreciate that, and what I also appreciate is your friendship, because not only do we have a connection, and I think that's why we have maintained this friendship over the years, is we not only connect in the comedy world, we connect in our interpersonal relationship and our lives with our family and our kids, and I just want you to know that to me is important. Not only are you a stand-up comedian, you're a stand-up guy, and I mean that with all my heart.
Thanks, Paul. I mean, I feel the same way. It's like, but that's what this podcast is hopefully about. It's about the people we meet along the way, whether they have some big TV career or film or whatever. It's the world of comedy that people don't see, like what connects everybody, from the people that are doing the small shows to the people that are at Vegas to the people that make crack TV and film. And
Yep.
like, you're one of the people in my stand-up life that has made it. So I'd like to ask you before we leave, anything going on take us out on some upbeat song before we say goodbye to everybody.
Okay, I could. I guess it's not going to be in the year 2525. No, I'm not going to do that one. All right, let me do something stand. Well, I wish that I was on a rocky top down in the Tennessee hills. Ain't no smoky smoke on rocky top, ain't no telephone bill. A corn don't grow at all on rocky top, church to rocky my farm. That's why all the folks on rocky top get their corn from a jar. Oh, rocky top, you'll always be oh, sweet home to me. Good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. Rocky Top, Tennessee. I have no idea why I chose that song.
That's right. I love it. Thank you, Paul.
Thank
you guys for watching. Watch for more. We'll put this out there somewhere on Facebook, and we're going to keep doing this, hopefully to keep everybody company while all this is going on. Stay well, stay safe. We'll see you soon.